All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to jump right in and start your very first automation journey. We're going to walk through the absolute essential Selenium WebDriver commands. The ones you need to actually take control of a web browser, step by step. So, are you ready to make a browser do exactly what you want just with a few lines of code? Awesome. Let's get our hands dirty and actually build your very first script together.
Every journey has to start somewhere. And for us, it's pretty simple. We're going to launch a browser and tell it exactly where to go. So let's look at the very first command you're going to need.
The very first, most fundamental command you'll ever use is get. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like you're typing a web address into the URL bar and just smacking the enter key. It's the command that kicks everything off. And here it is in action. See that driver object? That's basically your remote control for the browser. You just call the .get method on it, and you pass in the URL you want to go to. Super simple, clean, and it just works.
Okay, so the browser is open. But what if you need to, mess with the browser itself? That's where the manage method comes into play. Think of it as your gateway to all the browser settings and options.
And a really common thing you'll do, almost all the time, is maximize the browser window. See how we're chaining these commands? Manage, then window, then maximize? This is a best practice for sure. It just makes sure your script runs in a nice, consistent, full-screen environment. And that helps prevent all sorts of weird issues where, maybe an element is hidden because the window's too small.
All right, we've launched the browser, we've gone to a page, but how do we know we're actually in the right place? The next logical step is to get our bearings and just verify our location. The current URL method, well, it does exactly what it sounds like. It just grabs the URL of the page you're on right now. And this isn't just for your information. This is like your first line of defense in a test. You use this to make absolutely sure your script landed on the correct page before you try to do anything else. It's crucial.
And here's the cool part. The command just returns the URL as a regular old string, which you can then store in a variable. This is so powerful because you can then write a simple check, right? You can say, hey, does this URL contain google.com? And then automatically pass or fail your script based on that result. Another fantastic way to confirm you're in the right spot is to check the page title. That little piece of text that shows up in the browser tab? The getTitle method grabs that for you. It's just another layer of verification that makes your script way more reliable. And just like the getCurrentURL, getTitle also returns a string. You can grab it, stick it in a variable, and use it for another check. This is so useful for making sure you've landed on, say, the login page before you even try to type in a username.
Okay, so we've checked the address on the house and the name on the mailbox. But what if you need to verify something really specific inside? For that, we gotta pop the hood and look at the page's raw source code.
Now, you're not going to use this one every day, but when you need it, the getPageSource method is a lifesaver. It gives you the entire HTML of the current page. If you absolutely have to check if a tiny piece of text or code exists anywhere on the page, this is your tool.
And what you get back is this massive string. It's just all the HTML that makes up the page. It looks like a lot, I know, but you can programmatically search through it. It's perfect for those weird edge cases, like verifying a specific Google Analytics script is there, or maybe some legal text is present, even if you can't see it.
And hey, let me give you a pro tip for your journey. The official Selenium documentation is your absolute best friend. Seriously, it even breaks down commands into helpful categories. Everything we've done so far, that all falls under control the browser. Whenever you're in doubt, just go to the docs. They are the source of truth.
Look, your scripts are rarely just going to visit one page and stop, right? You need to move around, go from one page to another, maybe even use the back and forward buttons. And for that, we have a whole new set of commands.
The navigate method is your key to the browser's history. Now, you might be looking at .to and thinking, wait a minute, that looks a lot like the .get command from before. And you're right, they seem similar. But the key difference is that navigate gives you access to then-chain commands like .back and .forward, which perfectly mimics a real person clicking those little arrows in their browser.
So we've started a browser, we've moved around, we've checked our location. Now it's time for the final and honestly one of the most important steps, ending the session cleanly.
And this brings us to a classic question. This trips up so many people when they're starting out. Should you use close or should you use quit? They sound like they do the same thing, but trust me, their behavior is critically different.
Okay, here it is in a nutshell. Think of close like closing a single browser tab. If your script happened to open multiple windows or tabs, close is only going to shut down the one that's currently in focus. Quit, on the other hand, well, quit is the sledgehammer.
It shuts down every single window your script opened and completely terminates the entire automation session. No loose ends.
So, which one should you use? Look, to make sure your script ends completely and doesn't leave any ghost browser processes running in the background, driver.quit is the command you want. Seriously, like 99% of the time, this is the one you'll use to end your tests.
So let's just do a super quick recap of our little journey here. You kick things off with driver.get, you figure out where you are using getCurrentURL and getTitle. You move around between pages with driver.navigate, and you always end your session cleanly with driver.quit. These are the absolute cornerstones.
Okay, so you've basically mastered controlling the browser itself. The window, the URL, the history, that's awesome. But the real magic, the real power, comes from interacting with the stuff on the page, clicking buttons, filling out forms, reading text. So that leaves us with a big question. How in the world do you find those things in the first place? Well, we'll dive into that next time.